What is good, fam? Drake and his billionaire persona just went up in smoke after a $4.6 million lawsuit proved he is defaulting on his loans. It looks like he is trying to sell us 43 songs of filler just to keep the lights on at the embassy. It is time to stop looking at the jewelry or the private jets and start looking at the actual receipts, because the paperwork coming out of the courts is nasty work. On June 18, 2026, an investment firm called ARIOVO Growth Capital One, LLC, filed a massive lawsuit that officially pulled the curtain back on the financial collapse of the empire.
It was not to do the modern Frank Ocean maneuver or anything like that, but primarily it was for one simple reason: to flood the algorithm, flood platforms, and flood the system with so much content and so much music that you can't escape.
We are talking about $4.6 million in outstanding debt, plus a mountain of interest that the brand simply failed to pay back. For a guy who spent the last decade rapping about being an untouchable mogul, getting sued for a $4 million default is a level of embarrassment he cannot scrub away. This is the reality of a multi-million-dollar financing failure that proves the facade is finally cracking under the pressure of his own ego. Everything starts to make sense when you look at the timing of that massive 43-song triple album release earlier this year. That project was not a creative statement or some epic gift to the fans. It was a direct response to these massive financial pressures hitting his bank account.
It was not to do the modern Frank Ocean maneuver or anything like that, but primarily it was for one simple reason: to flood the algorithm, flood platforms, and flood the system with so much content and so much music that you can't escape. Thank you, Kendrick Lamar, for making Drake finally get back the ability to pretend that he is trying, because seriously, to release 43 songs across 3 albums in one night and put out all these visuals, which were very well done.
He needed to flood the streaming services with as much content as possible just to generate enough royalties to keep the debt collectors from knocking. This is not the behavior of a man who is winning. It is the behavior of a man who is drowning in high-interest loans while maintaining a lifestyle he can no longer afford. The situation gets even worse when you look at the internal health of the OVO brand, because the court filings are exposing some pathetic numbers. Even though the brand reported $72 million in revenue between 2022 and 2024, the business still lost $12 million in operating costs. It takes a special kind of mismanagement to bring in $72 million and still end up $12 million in the hole after only 2 years.
Most of the halfway point is Iceman of the 14 album. Everything below More Life or Down is diminishing badly.
That is exactly what happens when your overhead is bloated and your entire business model is based on a declining cool factor that no longer exists. Ever since Kendrick Lamar dismantled the OVO narrative on a global stage, the brand has been bleeding out in real time before our eyes. People are simply not checking for the owl logo like they used to, because the association has shifted from being a tastemaker to being a punchline. This financial tailspin is so bad that Drake is reportedly looking at a forced stabilization move by selling a 50% stake to Authentic Brands Group. You do not sell half of your legacy brand unless you are desperate for a cash injection to stop the bleeding before everything collapses.
Considering that Drake and UMG's relationship has never been worse and everything just keeps coming apart for these two, I mean, this is a first. They got dissed on their own employee's album.
This is a complete reversal of the narrative that Drake is some kind of master businessman who is 10 steps ahead of everyone else in the industry. The truth is that OVO is failing because it was built on the idea that he would stay at the top forever without any competition. Once that culture crown was snatched away, the corporate structure underneath it started to crumble because there was nothing real holding the whole thing together. We have to talk about the high overhead that is killing this company, because the lifestyle he portrays in his lyrics is draining the bank accounts. You cannot fly a massive customized cargo plane around the world and maintain several mansions while your primary business is losing $6 million a year.
Let's start in the skies, because Drake doesn't fly commercial. Nah, he flies Air Drake. This private jet is worth $185 million. Drake's main mansion in Toronto is a $100 million limestone palace.
The master businessman persona was always just a marketing tactic to keep the investors happy. But now those investors are the ones filing lawsuits to get paid. Contrast this corporate failure to the way he talks about himself in his songs, and you will see a massive gap between the myth and reality. He wants to play the role of a mob boss who controls the industry, but he is currently getting handled in court over a loan he could not cover. This is the ultimate proof that the Kendrick beef did more than just hurt his feelings, it actually damaged his bottom line and devalued the brand. When the cultural heat leaves, the money follows right behind it, and the owl is the biggest victim of that shift in the rap game. Drake is currently trapped in a cycle where he has to release massive amounts of music just to service his debts, which explains the lack of quality.
Detail was invited at 2 a.m. to Drake's home in Calabasas, under the impression that they would be discussing potential future work.
He is chasing the numbers because he is terrified of what happens when the checks stop clearing and the lights finally go out for good. The Billionaire talk was a great run while it lasted, but the court documents from June 2026 are telling a story that no ghostwriter can fix. On May 15, 2026, the desperation reached a fever pitch when Drake tried to brute force his way back to the top spot. He dropped a bloated 43-song triple album that was split into 3 sections called Iceman, Habibti, and Maid of Honor. This massive collection of tracks was the clearest sign yet that he has completely given up on the idea of making quality music. When you drop nearly 50 songs at once, you are not trying to create a masterpiece, you are just trying to manipulate the Billboard charts through sheer volume.
To get those chart placements. Drake is probably going to chart all 43 songs of this on the Hot 100, which both seems to be the standard and pro quo in hip-hop.
Business Insider caught on to the scam quickly and published a scathing critique on May 26th, where they labeled him a cynical businessman rather than a creative artist. They described the entire rollout as a cheat code designed to exploit streaming algorithms because Drake knows 43 mediocre songs generate more revenue than 10 great ones. The backlash was almost immediate as fans began to realize they were being fed filler instead of actual substance. This strategy of flooding the zone is a direct result of his financial overhead becoming too heavy to carry without constant massive payouts. My original take on this is simple. Drake is no longer making music for the culture or for the craft. He is running a high-volume commodity business to keep his creditors at bay. He is essentially the fast fashion of rap music at this point, prioritizing quantity over everything because his lifestyle demands a level of cash flow that a standard album cycle can no longer provide. Industry manipulation did not stop at the track list because the way this project was pushed on Spotify created a whole new level of frustration for everyone. People started noticing that tracks from Iceman were being forced into the most random places imaginable, including Christian rap playlists and even playlists dedicated to Olivia Rodrigo fans. It was a desperate and transparent attempt to farm streams from audiences that have absolutely zero interest in what Drake is doing in 2026.
Most of his, the halfway point is Iceman of the 14 albums. Everything below More Life or Down is diminishing badly.
This kind of aggressive marketing proves that the natural demand for his music is drying up, so his team has to resort to these shady tactics just to keep his numbers looking respectable. It's honestly embarrassing to see a guy who once ruled the world having to rely on being a glitch in the system just to stay relevant. The music itself can no longer sustain the massive machine he built around himself, so he has resorted to being a spam bot in human form. If the music was actually good, he would not need to be forced into a Christian rap playlist to get a click. But the reality is that the Iceman era is a hollow shell of what he used to represent. Before we move on and see how the ladies officially started a movement to boycott his whole career, tell me what y'all think about these playlist scams. Is Drake officially a legacy fraud for using bot-level tactics just to stay on the charts? Tell me in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button. No cap. Let's continue. Things took an even more personal turn in early July 2026 when a viral movement started gaining momentum among his female fan base.
Well, you see, Drake used the $50 million that he got from Cash Money Records to pay back his own employees. All of this was just an elaborate publicity stunt to promote his latest album.
For years, women were the backbone of Drake's success, but that loyalty has officially hit a breaking point as female fans began publicly refusing to support this new era. The boycott went nuclear after a viral creator on TikTok compared his behavior to a child, stating that his petty antics and constant obsession with younger women felt like McDonald's Happy Meal energy. She specifically called out his habit of using his wealth to control the narrative, labeling his financial gifts as Happy Meal payments for women who are tired of his lack of maturity. This roast resonated because it captured exactly how the public views him now. A grown man who is stuck in a permanent state of teenage angst while the rest of the world has moved on. The image of the sensitive lover is dead, and in its place is a guy who looks increasingly out of touch with the people who used to buy his records. Houston has been Drake's second home for years, but that whole connection just turned into a total disaster. Sauce Walka dropped a bomb in June of 2026 called Baby Mama Drama, and he absolutely ripped Drake's reputation in the city to shreds. The track exposed Drake for throwing bags of money at various baby mamas across Houston just so he could keep some fake street cred. Things got even uglier when audio leaked of Drake allegedly threatening Sauce Walka's circle, a move that made him look completely unhinged.
Detail was invited at 2 a.m. to Drake's home in Calabasas, under the impression that they would be discussing potential future work.
Getting checked in public by the real leaders of your supposed home base is a nasty look for anyone. Dropping millions on jewelry and cars for these women isn't power. It is just a sad attempt to buy respect. His music doesn't command anymore. This image of him being untouchable is falling apart, and those backroom threats prove he knows the clock is ticking on his reign. He keeps trying to flex his bank account to quiet the noise, but it only reminds us about that $4 million debt in the corporate world. It is wild to watch him play big spender at the club while his actual lifestyle brand is bleeding $12 million in losses. His current era is built on high interest loans and lies, and now the women he tried to control are the ones exposing the whole scam. No amount of money can save a legacy that the fans are starting to treat like a joke. The World Cup festivities in Toronto on July 4th, 2026 was supposed to be a homecoming win, but they only proved how far his stock has plummeted. He tried to distract everyone from his failing business by posting a photo with the Cristiano Ronaldo, thinking a link up with the legend would fix his global image. The internet wasn't buying the app, and the comment sections immediately turned into a roast session about the darkest allegations in both of their past. Standing next to another controversial figure is a terrible PR move when you are already under fire for how you move in the industry.
Now, I already know the owl is going to be in the comment section spiraling. Now, let me just say this. I think Iceman did, 460, 450 first week, right?
Everything about that moment felt staged, like a man grabbing at global icons because he is terrified of losing his spot in the elite circle. It was a transparent attempt to look like a winner, while the OVO brand is getting stripped for parts in a courtroom behind the scenes. The infamous Drake curse made a loud comeback when he placed a massive bet on Morocco to beat Canada. Betting against your own country on their biggest stage and losing the cash is the perfect metaphor for the year he is having. Every move he makes now is just a calculated distraction to keep people from talking about the OVO collapse and that $12 million loss. He is trying to play global ambassador while his empire is being torn apart by terrible management and high interest loans. This is what it looks like when someone knows they are losing the narrative, so they attach themselves to anything that still has cultural weight. That Ronaldo photo was meant to be a legendary moment, but it just reminded everyone that Drake is a magnet for bad optics and negative energy. Kendrick Lamar cast a massive shadow over him back in 2024, and that started a downward spiral that the 2026 Super Bowl snub finally finished. Once Kendrick took over that stage, the world decided the OVO era was over. The financial fallout became something nobody could hide from anymore, and fans are not just arguing about this decline on Twitter.
Now, I already know the owl is going to be in the comment section spiraling. Now, let me just say this. I think Iceman did, 460, 450 first week, right?
The reality is right there in the court documents and bank statements for everyone to see. It is impossible to keep up a $1 billion lifestyle when your brand loses its cool factor while the operating losses just keep climbing. Rappers might lie, but the numbers never do, especially when $12 million in losses are involved. A hole that deep is not something you can fix with a few club appearances or some ghost-written verses. My prediction is that the OVO brand gets sold to the highest bidder by the end of 2026. The Iceman project is not making any profit because the music feels too bloated and the fans are exhausted. Creditors are getting too impatient to wait for a comeback that clearly is not coming. There is something truly savage about him rapping like an untouchable mob boss while he gets dragged into court over a $4 million loan default. You cannot claim to run the game when you are not even paying your bills on time. That is the real legacy of Drake in 2026. For years, he told us he was a better businessman than everyone else, but the receipts show he was just a guy with a marketing team. His massive line of credit finally went dry after years of overspending. The era of the certified lover boy is officially done.
Drake's main mansion in Toronto is a $100 million limestone palace.
We are just watching the slow and painful liquidation of a legend who stayed at the party too long. Flooding the zone with 43 songs was his last gamble to save that lifestyle. The failure of that project proves the culture has moved on to something more authentic. Before we see how this OVO fire sale plays out in the headlines, tell me what you think about this collapse. Let me know in the comments if you think he can recover from a $12 million hole, no cap. Make sure to like and subscribe as we continue with the story.